Welcome back to the channel. Today we'll continue to look at the secret A treasure hunt. In my last video, I discussed how the fair people hide in plain sight, which is why their clues are hidden in plain sight within the painting. It is a feature of their relationship with man. But they don't just hide things in plain sight within the paintings. The entire book has things hidden within it. If we are good and kind and playful, we can find those hidden things. Each descendant has a section on how to find them called the Spotter's Tips. In keeping with the fairy tradition of playful torture and occasional benevolence towards man, these Spotter's Tips aren't to help us find these fairies. They are really guiding us to help us find their casks. We just have to read between the lines. Take the Spotter's Tips for the foul sewer ogres. If you read them plainly, it seems as if they are just instructing us on how to find the sewer ogre. The name of the fairy is a play on words for foul sewer odors, and it is telling us we just need to follow your nose. But what if they aren't being straight with us? Remember, they view our names as things we can possess, and their history is to use irony to play with us. What better use of irony than using their own names to contain information? The first thing to note is every spotter's tip has a finger pointing to it. This is known as a manicule. This typographic mark was used by printers to draw the reader's attention to important text. If you believe that the field guide has no connection to the treasure hunt, then why would the spotter's tips be important enough to draw our attention to it? This manicule is found on every descendant in the field guide and is hidden in plain sight. If we return to the actual text of the spotter's tip and read between the lines, we can start to understand what they are hiding in plain sight. The soundest advice to those who would seek. We are the ones who are seeking, and they are giving us their soundest advice. Take a look at the Chicago verse. It says, "Seek the sounds." What else do the spotter's tips tell us? Is there a way to know that it is actually referencing the verse? The next part of the tip says, "For their own perverse purposes." Taken within the context of the foul sewer ogre, it might seem a little perverse to search for a creature so stinky. But the fair people love to hide things in plain sight, especially when they can play with words. They tell us this is the soundest advice. What if we sound out the word perverse? Suddenly it changes to perverse, directing us to look in the verses themselves, which we are using for our own purposes. The final bit of information we are given is the most important: follow your nose. This idiom has a couple different meanings, but both are relevant. First, follow your nose means to keep moving forward in a straight line. Think of this as a way to give us a heading. Second, follow your nose means to trust your own feelings rather than obeying the rules. We are told what the rules are in the book. Things like you only need one painting and one verse. But here, we are told by the fair people to ignore the rules and trust your gut. In my last video, I pointed out that on page 10, it shows a map of the origin of the fair people, and on the map are lines. This is an example of hiding things in plain sight. We should be looking for ways to draw lines on the map because it will help us figure out the location we should search. Notice what else is on this page. At the bottom of the page is the job goblin, holding his hand up to his mouth as if he's telling us a secret. What do you notice about the job goblin? He has a huge nose. If we have done our job and followed it here, then we can trust our gut instead of following the rules. When man makes maps, what kind of lines do we use on it? Latitude and longitude. We've known about the numbers in the paintings being used as latitude and longitude for a long time. But what if there was something more to it that we haven't figured out? What if we need to use those numbers to create a different line on the map? What if we follow our nose and use the latitude and longitude numbers as headings? Take a look at the Chicago painting, possibly the easiest city. One of the first things you might notice is the large nose of the fair person. We know that the windmill in the painting is a representation of the Chicago water tower, and that hidden within the blades of the windmill are the latitude and longitude numbers. The blades form a large addition symbol. In the poem, which leads into the paintings, we are told that man's numbers quickly grew. What if we add the numbers together? The longitude numbers for Chicago are 87 and 88. When added together, they total 175. What happens if we use that as a heading from the location of the Chicago water tower? It takes us directly to the location where the cask was found. In the Cleveland painting, the latitude and longitude numbers are found near the arch, which is a representation of the fountain at the Italian Cultural Gardens. The longitude number of 81 is presented twice, both forwards and backwards, but together. If we add it again, we get a total of 162. If we take that heading from the location of the fountain in the Italian Gardens, again, it leads us directly to the location where the cask was found. Each painting is a little different, especially with regards to the latitude and longitude numbers. Boston had the zip code numbers in it, but the latitude and longitude numbers were a little more difficult to find. One number that is quite obvious is the 42 on the sleeve. There isn't a location associated with the sleeve, like in the Chicago and Cleveland paintings, but we are given some points of interest in the painting. The bird and the bubble were meant to indicate the Boston Pops, who play at Symphony Hall. The fairy itself is flying with the jewel and is a representation of a painting found at the Boston Library. When the number 42 is used as a heading from either of those locations, the line on the map leads directly to the baseball fields where the cask was found. At this point, you may be wondering about the other numbers. Chicago and Cleveland both have a latitude of 41 and 42 in the painting. Why didn't we use those numbers? Is there something more we can find? In Chicago, the numbers add up to 83, but there doesn't appear to be any location given to us that would be useful as a heading. In Cleveland, things get interesting. Across the street from the Greek Cultural Garden is the Ukrainian Cultural Garden. There is a statue in the Ukrainian Cultural Gardens dedicated to Lesia Ukrainka, which was installed in 1961. She was Ukraine's greatest poet. Remember, the latitude of Chicago was the same two numbers as Cleveland, but we didn't have anything in Chicago. We know that each painting has a month associated with it, which includes the birth month flower. The Chicago painting flower is the lily of the valley. Let's return to the statue of Lesia Ukrainka. Do you know what her first published poem was titled? It was called The Lily of the Valley. This direct connection to the Chicago painting could explain why there was no location used in Chicago with the latitude numbers. It was meant to be used in Cleveland. Why? Because the paintings share the clues. This idea is given to us in the poem following the paintings. It says, "A dozen paintings share the clues, but fairy secrets come in twos." How is this useful in Cleveland? In this case, the latitude numbers are read straight ahead, from left to right. When you add 14 and 42, you get 56. The 56-degree heading from Lesia Ukrainka leads directly to the Cleveland cask location as well. At this point, you might be curious about the unsolved paintings and how the numbers work. As the fair people tell us, the mystery is yours to unravel. A word of caution, though. Not all of them work the same way. Thanks for watching. If you feel like this video has been helpful, please like and subscribe.